So we're going to go over dividing long division, and we're going to be working with decimal numbers. So we have two decimal numbers, 1.55, which is going to be divided by 6.2. Before we even do that, I want you to put it into fraction form, because we can think of things logically when we're talking about fractions. So what would this be as a fraction, even though I know there's decimals involved? Which would be the numerator, which would be the denominator?
The numerator would be 6.2.
So this would be the number on top, 6.2? Okay, I'm going to write it like that, and then we're going to talk about it.
Yes.
Okay. So this would say 6.2. That line means what?
Divide.
Divided. So when we read, if we're, we read the thing on top, then down. So this would say 6.2 divided by 1.55.
Yes.
What does this say? 1.55 divided by...
6.2.
Is that the same?
No.
No, these are not the same.
Yeah.
Okay? So let's rewrite that fraction.
Okay.
What would be the numerator, do you think, this instead?
1.5.
That's right. The first term would be the numerator, because this would say 1.55 divided by 6.2. Okay? Which number is larger? 1.55 or 6.2? 6.2. So the denominator is a larger number. Okay? Right away, when dividing, if the denominator is a larger number, our answer is going to be less than a certain value. Do you happen to know what that is? That rule at all?
Yeah.
So think of it like this. You might not know this off the top of your head, but 1 divided by 2, do you know what that divides into? Or what is that as a decimal?
No.
It's 0.5. It's a half.
Oh, half.
Right?
Yeah.
Now look at this. Which number was larger, 1 or 2?
2.
The denominator was larger.
Yes.
This is less than a certain number. Okay, now we're going to talk about it again. I know that doesn't quite make sense. What about this? 2 divided by 2. Do you know what that equals?
4. No.
Number divided by itself? Try it on your calculator. See what you get. 2 divided by 2?
1.
1. Any number divided by itself is
yeah,
1.
1.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to find a pattern here. Okay. And then finally, look what I'm going to do this time. Instead, I'm going to have 3 divided by 2. Do you know what that is? I'm going to tell you. It's going to be 1.5.
Okay.
I want you to logically think about this before we even go into our long division here. This will help us when setting up the decimal. Okay? When the denominator was larger, we got 0.5. When the numbers were the same, we got 1. And when the numerator was larger, we got a number larger than what?
1.
Than 1. So, what this is saying is if your denominator is larger, your answer must be less than 1.
Okay.
If your numbers are the same, your answer is 1.
Okay.
And if your numerator is larger, your number has to be greater than 1.
Okay.
So, if I put a greater than or less than sign, this answer is going to be what? Less than or greater than 1?
It's going to... oh, it's less.
Yeah, it's going to be less than 1. Right? Oh, that way, all kind of backwards here. But our answer is going to... Oh, no, that's right. Sorry, I did write that right. It's going to be less than 1. We know our answer is less than 1. We're going to get some decimal. That'll help us. Because if we put the decimal in the wrong spot and we get a number larger than 1, we know that doesn't make any sense because the denominator is bigger. So that's a good place to start when dividing, okay? So I know it took us a bit to actually get to the question. Now let's actually set this question up. Now, when we're setting the question up, we're used to setting up dividing like this, right? And the first term, again, what this says is 1.55 divided by 6.2. Well, the 1.55 becomes our number underneath, okay?
Okay.
That goes underneath, and I think you already know how to set that up, right? This becomes 1.55, and it's divided by 6.2, okay? Well, our 6.2 is the term on the outside, but we don't like to work with our decimals, okay? So what we're going to try to do is the term on the outside, we want to make it a whole number.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if this is a whole number or not, because eventually in long division we end up putting our own decimals and we continue along, right? So we want this term to be a whole number without any decimals. So how far do I have to move that decimal?
Once.
Once. Which then means I have to move this decimal how far?
Once.
Just once. So now let's rewrite this entire question. Okay, I'm going to rewrite it just below. I'll move that one up so we have some room. So now, instead of being 6.2, what's the number on the outside?
62.
62. And instead of being 1.55, this is
15.5.
15.5. So now we've set this up properly. Okay? And the very first thing we do, this is going to help us logically. This number has to be less than what? The answer. We already talked
less
about it.
than 1.
Less than 1. So, ready? Does 62 go into 15?
No.
No. So what number do we put up there? If it doesn't go in? 0.
Oh.
And then the decimal goes up. So we know we're on the right track. This has to be less than 1, right? Okay. And now let's actually go through the dividing. So now we have 155. Does 62 go into 155?
Yeah.
How many times, though? That could be tough.
Twice.
Yeah, you're right. It's going to go in twice. Good for you. What I'm going to do, a lot of times when I do long division is I make a little, I call it my side calculations over here. Because sometimes I'm not sure what number is going to go in. So what I do is I test them. Well, we know 62 times 1 is going to be 62. Let's figure it out what it is times 2. It's going to be what? That becomes a 4. That becomes 12. 124? That sounds right. Let's try 3 just to make sure. Right? And the reason I write them here is because I can refer back to them as I go farther along. So what's 62 times 3? 3 times 2 is 6, yeah? 3 times 6? Good. Is that going to fit under 155? No, so we're working with that. So we know it's 2. We put 124 underneath, right? Then what do I do with that?
Subtract it.
All right, I want you to talk me through this.
Okay.
So I subtract now, what do I
So
get?
I subtract it's 1.
Okay.
That's it. Oh.
5
Did I do
subtract,
that right?
5 subtract 2.
Oh. 3.
Good.
Oh, I did.
Now,
Why did I do?
because we're not at, we haven't terminated yet, we're trying to see if this will terminate, and we think it will. I got to add what to the question?
A decimal 0.
Ah, do I already have a decimal?
Yeah.
So do I need to add a decimal? No, because you can only have one decimal in mathematics, in one number. So what comes next?
0.
0, right? And then we do what?
10.
Yeah, we bring that down. Okay, so what will go into 310? Are these going to be large enough? Our calculations on the side? No, we're going to try another one. What would be another good one to try? 62 times what do you think will go into 310? Right?
5.
Yeah, let's try 5. Okay, so what is 2 times 5?
10.
Okay, 1. 6 times 5?
30.
Plus 1?
31.
Hey, you found it right on, right? So 310, what do I do with that?
Subtract it.
And what do we get?
0.
0. So, our answer was... Oh, I forgot to write it in. That was a 5, right? So our answer was...
0.25.
Yeah, so we go back up.
Oh, I get it.
Is equal to 0.25. Is that less than 1?
Yes.
Yes, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Our answer was logical then. Okay, always keep that in mind. It'll help us, well, should the number be larger or less than 1? Good.